Hello, welcome to this tutorial. This is something I developed and it is based on the Radiotelephony spelling alphabet, and I'm calling it a transformer because it has a number of functions. One, it'll first of all teach you with graphic icons how to memorize and practice using the Radiotelephony spelling alphabet, and that is what you would, if you haven't been trained in it, from a formal position in military or first response, EMS, maritime fields or industries or professions, then you've probably heard people say Alpha, Bravo, Echo, Delta, etc. And if you're not sure why that is, it is because in the history and legacy of very limited radio quality, and because of the need to have cross compatibility with very primitive radio communication technology, there had to be a way to distinctly, across language barriers and gaps and interference and all kinds of issues that would come up with very already low quality signal, to be able to parse words down into letters of the English alphabet, the letters of the English alphabet that comprise words, finding and applying and attaching words that begin with each letter of the alphabet so that they would be highly distinguishable from each other. And apparently there was a lot of research that was done, a lot of testing with people from all different cultures and languages to try to arrive at words that would not collide in the way they sound with other words. And so it seems quite random and seems a little bit culture bound. I think now if this wasn't so deeply embedded, I think we might end up, if we had to start from scratch, think of some imagery that goes along with these words that are not so culture bound, meaning if you've never played golf before, you may not have a good recall of that golf is what you use when you want to say G. So anyway, it is what it is, and I don't think it's changing anytime soon. So I want to have the skill set for myself because I was not formally trained in any of those professions. And so in order to do so, I thought I'd make a project out of it that I could share with visitors to my website. And yeah, it starts with giving you this tour here of, these are the very amateurish icons that I made, but they serve the purpose of, even at a distance or even at small resolution, giving you something of an imprint to help go along with the memorization of the association of the letter of the alphabet and the word used. So that's this key panel below, and the first thing we'll do, the other function of this is that you can type text into this text field here, and you'll be able to have the player run that text and give you the translation, basically, or transform the text you enter into a stream of words, the words flashing that correspond to each letter. So if you were in a rush and you didn't have these memorized, you could rely on this tool. Go to this tool in a time where your communications are critical or they're limited or the quality is degraded, and you could, if you were having trouble and it mattered, it was important, like a rescue location or financial transaction details or something that had to be guaranteed accurate, then you could actually, if they were able to be online, you could have your counterparty or whoever you're talking to fire this tool up as well, and then have them type in the letters of the corresponding words as they're going by, and then read it back to you. So it could work going both ways to verify your comms. So we'll get to that second. First, we'll go back to and start with the way I'm adapting the teaching method of each of these. So first of all, we have a plant that is somewhat of a crude approximation of an alfalfa plant, because to me, alpha and alfalfa was the closest image. These are all images that just made sense to me. And some of them are very, very obviously associated. Some of them may be a little idiosyncratic, but we'll get there. We'll get through it. So here's alpha. A is the letter. Alpha is the word and the spelling of the word. And then you have the pronunciation, alpha. Okay? Now we have clapping hands with music notes. So it's kind of like you're at a concert and you're standing ovation saying bravo. And that's a B spelled bravo and then pronounced bravo. Next we have a little campfire, flames with logs and embers coming off. That is the C, stands for Charlie, and is pronounced Charlie. And the significance of the graphic for me, I thought, well, I can't think of a universally iconic Charlie named person, and I don't want to really use anyone's likeness per se, so I just went with char, like charcoal or biochar or char pit or whatever you want to call it. So that's your association that I'm offering, is to associate C for Charlie, and as an icon, oh yeah, the char, like charcoal, Charlie, yeah, okay. Next one is D for delta, and this is a little more obscure, but it's basically a schematic of what you would consider like a river delta in more of a geometric sense. There's many other, obviously, applications of that term, but for me, the most iconic was just the idea of a river delta and a schematic to kind of demonstrate that. So that one's pretty straightforward. And then next we have E for echo, and kind of looks like an RSS symbol, but basically the sound that looks like sound waves. They're a little bit squared off, but echoing sound waves icon is what I associated with that. And then this is pretty obvious. It's a canine. It looks kind of like a fox. Next one, F, foxtrot, and that pretty much speaks for itself. Next one is the golf, G for golf, and it's self-explanatory in terms of the pronunciation, so there's no additional, it's not separated, it's one syllable, golf. It's not go elf, it's just golf. So it doesn't need that further parsing of how to emphasize and break up the placement of the syllables. So that's golf, and then you see a golf club, a golf ball, and a golf hole with a flag in it. Next is H for hotel, and you see the icon is just a building with a street leading up to a parking lot. Pretty straightforward. Next we have more of a geographical reference, I for India, and that is just an approximation graphic of the continent, of the subcontinent. Most of it, it's not, just for the sake of simplicity, it was no offense to anyone, it was shaped just for it to be as iconic as possible. But of course there are disputes, and I'm not going to say that I know best where to draw those lines. I'm just going to reference the broad political map understanding that I have so far, so please bear with me. And then next we have J for Juliet, and that is, if you're not a Westerner English speaker, you probably may never encountered that word before, may not intuit that it is a typically female name, and may not intuit that it's from a classic body of literature. I'm not even sure how exactly to describe it. It's something you would study in humanities and ancient literature and whatnot, but it is a character in a love story, and the counterpart is going to come up here in a minute. So whoever the romantic voice was in the decision making for this set of words, they chose Juliet for for the use of the word or the letter J. And if you have a slight awareness of what the story that Juliet is a part of, and I'm not going to spoil the other half of it just yet, then you would understand why it's a typically long-haired female icon with a heart symbol representing the romance. So that's relatively straightforward, but I thought I would take some extra time to clarify anything that has a not instantly cross-cultural sort of possible relevance. Next one is pretty cross-cultural. It is the K for kilo. And what came to my mind was just a kilo, like a kilogram or a kilometer, a unit of measurement. And so the scale as a measuring tool to provide that in an iconic sense is pretty universal. So I went with that. Next we have Lima. And I could not think of any other Lima that I'd ever heard of other than the location in Peru. So you have a South American map with sort of a point at which Lima, Peru is located. So it's another geographic reference, and of course that's universal enough. And then next one we have M for Mike. It's one syllable, Mike, and I put in a microphone because it couldn't get simpler than that. And then next we have N for November, 3 syllables, November, and just a calendar to be reminded that, oh, it's a month of the year, okay? Next, this one is a little more culture bound, and so you can blame me. I don't know what Oscar would represent to non-Western or non-American, whatever. I don't know what country in the world geographically has the highest per capita usage of the name Oscar, but it's typically a male's name. But I thought it might be more iconic in terms of the world we're all affected by Hollywood. So I use the statue trophy that you get at the Oscars in the award ceremony as the symbol or icon for Oscar. And that's O. Next you have Papa, and simple as just a graphic of a father and child, and 2 syllables, Papa. Next we have another geographical reference, Q for Quebec, not Quebec, but Quebec. And I gotta zoom in a little bit for you to see it, but basically there's a marking for exactly where on the map of North America approximately Quebec is located. Now we've made our way to the counterpart to Juliet, which is Romeo, and it's a more of a masculine form but also a romantic image. So that is bring it up here, R for Romeo. And next I'm going to zoom in on this. It's a little bit. This is a mountain range treescape in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, and that was the best reference I could come up with. Sierra for the Sierra Mountain Range. That's S, Sierra. Had a lot of fun with this one. Did a little research. This is T for Tango. So it has a long A sound. Tango. And the icon is a Latin American-esque couple dancing, the best I could do with basically pixel art. And so hopefully you enjoy that. I think that's my favorite one. Tango. Next we have U for uniform, and that is pretty obvious, just kind of military, cop, fighter all in one kind of motif, but that's U for uniform. Next one is the raising the fist, and gonna call that victory in the battle. V for victor. That's the raised fist. Next you have the bottle, very pretty clear to see. W for whiskey, whiskey. Next you have a skull, which is going to represent X for X-ray, X-ray, pretty self-explanatory. Then you have the Northern Army Yankee flag, Y for Yankee, Yankee. So the American flag of the era I chose for that. And then finally we have the last geographical reference for Zulu, where I chose the map location of the Zulu people, and it's Z Zulu Zulu right there, and then that's the last icon where the lower line shows basically that southern region of Africa where that is. So that was your maybe first, maybe millionth lesson in the radiotelephony spelling alphabet. Now let's get into the transformer utility. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and use the transformer utility, which I've already copied in to the text field here, radiotelephony spelling alphabet transformer. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to press start, not play. You got to initialize it by pressing start, and then you'll use play later if you end up pausing. So let me explain this. Yeah. So once you've pasted your text in this text field, the next thing you're gonna do is press start. That'll get it rolling, and then if you want to pause it for whatever reason, you can press pause. You can use the arrow key or the arrow button on the far left at the top to go back and backtrack. Let's say someone didn't catch it or they didn't verify it as you were going along correctly, so you can back up after you pause it. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment, but I just want to walk through these. And then after you pause it, you press play again and it'll resume from where you left off. And then restarting it is going to reload the page and wipe out what you put in as the text. So only do that if you have your text still handy, or you have new text that you want to use and you want to clear it. So, and then the final button at the top there is to proceed ahead one letter forward. So let's say you have a situation where somebody is you're catching somebody up because they missed a couple, and then they're like, oh, I got that whole word. You can go to the next word, and then you could speed up and save time if you wanted to cycle through to get to the next word. And then so let's do this. Let's press start. Romeo, Alpha, Delta, India, Oscar, Tango, Echo, Lima, Echo, Papa, Hotel, Oscar. Okay, so you see how this goes? It's flashing all these words. You see it going along. It's already halfway through spelling. It's about to... Here it goes into alphabet. Okay, so that's how this works. Simple enough. If you ever needed to rely on this, it is available for you, and you can, if you would like to, even save the HTML of this page as an offline file that lives on a offline computer or hard drive or thumb drive, and you can use this as long as you save the whole HTML folder and not just the HTML page itself. There should be an option when you go to save a website from your browser to save all files, and that will guarantee you save the style sheet, you save the JavaScript, and you save the icons, the images. Otherwise it'll either not work or it'll be a very sad experience. So be sure to save the whole thing if you want it, and then it's yours. And then the cool thing about this, whether you save it and run it offline or you are still connected to the internet while you save it, the messages and the text or text that you put in to this message box, they stay local to your browser environment. They don't go across the wire to any server. There's no cookies, there's no tracking of this. You go to this page, and in the logs, the server logs, your IP address will be associated with a request for this page, but that is the only information. The acknowledgement that you made the request and the acknowledgement that you received what you were looking for back and forth, those are the packets that are exchanged. The metadata that's exchanged involving your IP address and the server IP address. whatever computers, whatever entities are in the middle of relaying our encrypted communications across the wire, they're not peering into the contents of your, it doesn't feed back up into them. There's nowhere in the code of this application where the content that you paste into this field gets posted as a form action. So that's a little bit of technical speak, but point being, if you had a private message that you wanted to use this for, if you wanted to be extra cautious, then you can save the site, save this page with all of its associated files, and run this completely offline. Just unplug your network, turn your network off, and fire this up in a browser, and the browser will load it without needing anything. Nothing's going to break, and nothing is going to not render, because everything you need to load the site is going to live right there on your local device. So that was by design. This is for security and privacy, and this is going back to Web 1.0 sensibility in terms of cybersecurity. So I hope you appreciate that. And so moving along, so you just had an experience along with me of starting up a transformation of the words you put in. It parses the words you put in one letter at a time and gives you the corresponding term that's used in this alphabet. So just to give a demonstration of how the extra buttons work, obviously we already paused it. Let's press play again. Okay, there it keeps going. We'll pause it again. And let's go back one. Okay, Tango, Echo, forward, back to Tango, forward again. Okay, we're back on Transformer. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. The end of alphabet and the beginning of Transformer, that's why there were two tangos. Well, it takes two to tango, so there you have it. Okay, so you also see, so that runs through the tools at the top. Now at the bottom, you have just a couple of last options here, and then we're done. And that is, you see that on the far left, you get the percentage of completion from start to finish that you're at, and you also get the letter number that you're at. So if you ever were to need to monitor that or reference it, or even do some sort of on-the-fly encryption where you give somebody essentially a long message, and that is the plain text cipher. But to decode that plain text cipher, you would give them a separate message that is a numeric message that would give them the number that corresponds to the letter that within that text that you would be using to receive a message, an encoded message. You would be decoding it. You could decode an encoded message using this. And forthcoming, I'm going to be building what's called a number-off encryption algorithm, one of the most basic and simple, easy to interpret, not the most robust in terms of quantum resistance. It can be cracked, but it's better than nothing. And for a lot of people, something is better than nothing. And it's just a good way to learn some of the game theory and the strategic psychology of how this kind of stuff works. So whereas I just said a minute ago, you could give a corresponding set of numbers so that someone could use this tool to identify easily the letter number in order to build a message with. You could also further obscure. It's still called security by obscurity, meaning it's not actually totally random. There's still a pattern at work. So if someone can crack that pattern, they've got it all. The point is just to not be low-hanging fruit, make it as hard as possible. and that's the name of the game. So if you do number off encryption, let's say the number is 2468, and you do a number off of that, of adding one digit to 2468, you get what? 3579. Okay, that's the concept. It's very simple. You could be very creative with that, and you could add all kinds of nuance to that. You could say it's add 1 for every even number, add 2 for every odd number, and as long as you and your communication partner are aware of the algorithm that you're using to encode and decode, then you can get very creative with that. But I'm going to build that. It's going to be forthcoming, so you could chain these tools together and have a lot of fun. So the last thing is the ability to skip to a letter. So let's just say we'll go to letter 6, and then you'll have to press the skip to letter number button. Let's shrink this down. And it happens to be India, and it just starts from there. So skipping to 6, it'll start there again. If you need to pause it and go back, or whatever you need to do, you know how to do it. Cheers.